What's going on, y'all? It's Monty back with another episode of Reading with a Real Nigga. I know I missed y'all last week. I think I gotta slow this down a bit. Because right now the pace that I'm at is a book a week. And I can't read a book a week. So I might be doing it every other week. Maybe starting soon. I mean, I haven't caught up with myself in terms of the books that I've already read. So maybe I could keep going at a week right now. But I think a book every other week would be a lot more sustainable for me. But like I said, again, I haven't caught up with myself yet. But I'm getting there. Within like the next 2, maybe 3 months, I would probably be caught up. But by that point, I'll have read more books anyways. So maybe I just need to start reading faster. But either way, today we hopping into the 4 Agreements. The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And the 4 Agreements is basically all about the way he starts off the book is that we've been domesticated. We've been domesticated like animals by our parents from a young age. When we were first born, we really didn't have any say in what we had to believe and what we had to do and the way that our minds shaped over time. We were simply products of the environment that we were born into. So we were domesticated. We were told what to do, what not to do by people who may not even have had the quote unquote best idea of what to do and what not to do. It was basically just monkey see, monkey do. What we saw, we did. And what we were told, we didn't do. And that's what it came down to be. And eventually we reached this point where we're not really ourselves. A lot of people, we have fear about being who we truly are and saying what we truly want to say and being who we truly want to be, all out of fear because it goes against the agreements that we've created in our own minds. I want to get deeper into what I was just talking about right there and talk about domestication and dreams, because he says that the life that we live is a dream. Everything around us is a dream, and it's a dream that's been created and changed and manipulated by all the things around us. And we've essentially just become like animals, like just pets. I mean, we are animals, but we're just like pets, and we're doing what we're told. But at this point, we don't need anyone else to tell us what to do. 9 times out of 10, we already have that in our mind of what is right and what is wrong, and that's where the domestication has come in. So let's start it off with attention. Because Miguel in this book, Don, he says, attention is the ability we have to discriminate and focus only on what we want to perceive. And attention allowed us to create the dream that we live in. So the things that our parents were teaching us from a young age, we paid attention to it. You know, it was things that we were just learning for the first time, so we paid a lot of attention to it. And attention can be the greatest currency in the world. Because without attention, you wouldn't get anything. You wouldn't learn anything. You wouldn't adapt any new skills. You wouldn't change your environments. You wouldn't do anything without having a level of attention that is necessary towards gaining knowledge. So like I was saying before, he also states that as children, we didn't have the opportunity to choose our beliefs, but we agreed with the info that was passed. Whatever our parents told us, it was true. It was right. You know, it wasn't until later on in our lives where we might have started to question the things that we've learned. You know, it's like, I know it's a good example. I hate talking about religion, but it's a good example of how Christianity and I don't say any religion gets passed down. People are born into these families, and that's what the family believes. So that's what the child starts to believe. You know, you don't necessarily have a choice in what religion you're going to get into if your family is previously religious before you're born. You're just born into what they want you to believe. Continuing with that, the only way to store info is through an agreement. So all this knowledge that we're getting from our parents, all these things that we're learning from around us, we have to form an agreement with them to make them law in our minds. And that's what we did. We formed agreements in our minds of all the things that our parents had said, all the things that we were taught growing up, and we made these agreements. And over time, these agreements just got stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, eventually to the point where we essentially have our parents in our mind. So think about when you want to do something and you're like, oh no, that's bad. Why do you know that's bad? Because it was probably your parents who taught you that. That is why you believe that. That is why there are certain things you may have anxiety about, because it's all been passed down. Now, granted, there are obviously going to be differences because we're all different people. But at the end of the day, a lot of the knowledge that we have and a lot of the agreements that we make are from our parents. And that's another thing I want to get into, because a lot of people have gripes with their parents for various reasons. They may not like the type of person that their parents are, yada, yada, yada. But I want all of us to understand that our parents are just products of our grandparents. This has all just been passed down of domestication throughout generations. You know, where our grandparents passed it down to our parents passed it down to us. And even our grandparents got it from our great-grandparents. It's all been passed down, and it's all just lineage of things that just keep coming and coming, and they change with each generation, and each generation has the capability of breaking it. But a lot of us don't have the education needed to do so. And that's what this book kind of is. That's what this book really is. Our minds judge everyone and everything. We create an inner judge that follows the laws that we've agreed upon. So I've touched on this briefly, but we have a set of rules that we judge in our minds, and we judge everybody. We judge it based off of what the agreements we have in our mind are. So if you look at someone and you say, oh, that person's like not dressed right, that's based on an agreement that you made in your mind. In their mind, they think they're dressed perfectly fine. But in your mind, you have an agreement that disagrees with the agreement that they have. And that's all it really comes down to. And that was all conditioned into the mind through society, through your parent, mostly through your parents, and through the things that were around you when you were growing up, when you didn't have a choice in the domestication that you were experiencing. Apart from the judge lies the victim, which carries the blame, guilt, and shame. So whenever we do something that may not go with our agreements, that goes against our agreements, we feel the guilt and shame from doing that. We feel as if as if I'm a bad person. And another thing that he says in this book is that we abuse ourselves way more than anyone else would abuse us. The limit to which we take abuse from other people is less than the abuse that we give ourselves on a daily basis. So think about all the people who quite literally just get physically, abused. And think about the mental torment they must go through every day with themselves in order to be a type of person who agrees with that sort of behavior towards them. It's almost, I think masochism is the right word, but they agree that they should be punished like this for how bad they've been. And that's their reality. That's the agreement that they've made in their heads. Not saying it's right or wrong. To them, it's right. But obviously to society and other people, it may be wrong. But other people may see it as right as well. Like I said, it all comes down to the agreements you've made in your mind. And there are always consensus agreements, because nothing is ever agreed upon by everyone. But for the most part, the greater majority of people think that, okay, abuse is not a good thing. But there are some people who don't. And that's just the differences in the agreements that we make in our own minds. I think I might do all 4 agreements, but then that wouldn't give you any reason to read the book. So maybe I won't. But we're going to start off with the first agreement, which is be impeccable with your word. And impeccability, in the book, he describes it as without sin. And what he says is sin is not necessarily the religious sin, but what sin is to Miguel is going against yourself. Anything you say that goes against yourself and who you are is a sin. You're sinning against yourself. You're not being impeccable with your word. And he talks about the power that the word has. One word can change a life or destroy the lives of millions. Think about how many speeches have changed the history of a certain nation. Think about how many people through their word have changed the history of a nation. The easiest name that comes to mind is Hitler. It was his word. His word brought everything to life that he wanted. Everything in his mind was brought to life by his word. So the power of the word is immense. Absolutely immense. You wouldn't believe the power that your words have. I know you can probably think of it. Think of the time that you said something to someone that's something you shouldn't have said to someone, and you said it to someone. Think about the power, the effect that had on the other person, and how much damage you can do with your words. Think about how much damage you can do. Not the damage you have done. Think about how much damage you can do with the words that you say to other people. It's immense. It's immense. So you have to be impeccable with your word. And being impeccable with your word means without sin. So he also has the word is a force that allows you to communicate, to express, communicate, and ultimately create the events in your life. So your word is going to shape the entirety of your life. You have to hold it to the highest regard. This is the most important agreement, holding your word to the highest regard. Making sure that whatever you say is never something that would go against yourself, or never anything that spreads poison. Another thing that he touches on is gossip. Gossip is spreading poison. Anything that you spread to someone else in terms of hurting another person is poison. Any mean word you say is poison. Anything you say that's negative about someone is poison. And you're spreading it. You're spreading it across. It's like a virus. You're just spreading it to other people, spreading it to other people. And that's when it becomes bad. That's how it starts to grow. That's how these things start to grow. And that's how the word becomes infectious. Because it's going from person to person. These people are ingesting this poison or taking in this poison. And it's starting to ruin the lives of other people. So we have to be really knowledgeable and understanding of what we're saying and how it may be affecting everything around us. So another thing he has here is your opinion is nothing but an expression of your beliefs, ego, and dreams. I think I've touched on this a little bit already, but your opinion has nothing to do with other people. It has everything to do with you. And even everything else someone says is a reflection of the agreements they have in their minds, not because of something that you did. I'm touching on that a little more in the next agreement, but right now I'm focusing on this. How much you love yourself correlates directly to the integrity of your word. Think about people who lie a lot. Think about people who aren't the best with what they say to other people. That is a direct reflection of how they feel about themselves. The ease in which someone has in bringing someone else down or talking bad about someone else shows you explicitly how easy it is for them to talk down on themselves. However easy it is for them to talk about someone else, it's even easier for them to talk down on themselves. Even easier. Because we're our biggest abusers. We abuse ourselves more than anything else. And I've touched on that. That's why I said I kind of said it. But the next agreement I want to get into is don't take anything personally. And it ties into kind of what I was just saying a second ago about how whatever someone says or whatever someone does is based off of the agreements that they've already made in their own minds. Because we assume everything is about us, which expresses maximum selfishness. Everyone thinks the things that people do to them is a result of the person that they are themselves, but it's actually a reflection of the person that you're dealing with. It never has anything to do with you. It's all based off of the agreements that other people have made with themselves. Nothing other people do is because of you, it is because of themselves. What others say and do are in accordance to agreements that they have set in their own minds. Whatever you think or feel is your problem. Whatever they say is something that is an agreement that they've made in their mind and that they feel okay with saying. However you respond to that is your problem. It's not theirs. They're just speaking from their point of view. They're speaking from their opinion. They're speaking from what they believe in the agreements that they have. It has nothing to do with you. So however you feel has to do with you. So you're in charge of being able to monitor how you feel and being able to manage the emotions that you may feel from anything that people may say, from the poison that people may throw towards you. Don't expect other people to change because you said so. They'll change when their agreements change. And 9 times out of 10, people's agreements never change. So it's up to you to understand that people are going to throw poison at you and you have to be able to manage it. Another thing he puts in here is that we are addicted to suffering and support each other in its maintenance. In the presence of those who need to suffer, something in you makes you abuse them. Think about the people who, I don't necessarily want to say it like this, but that's how I'm going to say it. Think of the people who just appear as like punching bags. the people who really talk bad on themselves, like, oh, everything is so bad in my life, everything is so terrible, yada yada yada, it gives you a sense of being like, yeah, like, you know, it makes you agree with them almost, because they're inviting pain into their lives through their word. They're inviting pain to their lives through their word. So in a roundabout way, it makes you feel as if, yeah, this person shouldn't be treated with the best. And 9 times out of 10, you know, we feel the inverse. We feel as if we need to be helping this person. But at the same time, it's like you're inviting all this poison into your life, so you deserve it. You're inviting it in. Everything you say, everything you do invites the poison into your life. So why would we wish anything better for you? Once you can stop inviting poison into your life, and once you can see that the way that you're speaking and the way that you're behaving is bringing nothing but negativity into your life, you should want to change it. Because the more negativity that you're inviting in, the more negativity people are going to give to you. And that's just going to lead you downhill. Another thing he has here is that they are asking for justification for their suffering. So they're inviting in all this suffering, they're inviting in all this pain, and when people do them wrong, they use it to justify themselves. Like, people are doing me wrong because I'm a bad person. People are doing me wrong because people are not good. They use it as justification. Think of all the people who say, like, oh no, people suck, or all the women who are like, oh, I hate all men, and then it's like, bitches ain't shit, yada yada yada. Everyone is just welcoming that poison in. Everyone is just welcoming in the poison. I'm really stuck between talking about all the agreements, but also like giving you guys the door to open yourself to learn what the other agreements are. But I think I'm going to skip the last 2 agreements just to be an asshole. And I'm going to discuss how to break agreements instead. So as I said before, as we age, our internal judicial system rules our lives and we lose our freedom. Over time, the agreements that we agreed to as a child, they start to become more and more and more and more set in stone in our lives. That internal judge that we have and the victim, they're ruling our lives. We're losing our freedom to be ourselves and who we want to be. We're living based on a set of ideals that were passed down from generations. And as I said before, your parents are not to blame. They couldn't control their programming, and neither could you. The freedom we search for is the freedom to be ourselves. The freedom to be ourselves, the freedom to do what we want. And in order to be able to feel as if you're being yourself, there are agreements that you have to break. And how do you break them? Through attention. It's roundabout. It comes right back. It's attention. We have to have the attention towards the agreements that we wish to break. And we need to have other agreements that we're ready to substitute for these agreements that we've already made in our lives. Be ready to fight that battle. Be ready to face those fears that are going to lie ahead of the agreements that you have to break, because it's going to take a lot to break agreements. Breaking agreements is never going to be easy. It is an everyday struggle, something you're going to have to go with and battle with for years. But if we want to break these agreements and we want to better ourselves and better our lives, these are the steps that we have to take. Belief is a choice. You can choose to believe anything that you wish. I'm gonna leave y'all there, man. So that is the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. If you want to know the other 2 agreements, go get you this book. Go get you the book, man. It's a really good book and it's really beneficial. So if you want to change your life, if you want to make things better and break the agreements that you've already learned, copy one of those books. And it's actually very cheap, if I remember. I think I paid maybe like $5-10 for it. No more than $15. I know I just said 3 different numbers, but whatever, y'all get what I mean. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me, and be on the lookout, because I'm not sure if I'm gonna do these every week or every other week, but eventually those are the 2 schedules that you could predict. Either predict every week or every other week. I'll figure it out. But I appreciate y'all rocking with me, and I'll talk with y'all soon.